Okay, so in this video I'm going to go over how to make buttons a little bit cooler, a little bit better. I don't know if there's really such thing as a bad button. It kind of depends on the context. Um, but for this purpose, I put together this this landing page hero section just for an example. So this is kind of my process for buttons, and so hopefully this could help you out. So say this is our hero section. This is our copy, our headline, our little sales pitch. So now we need a button. So how would we do that? All right. Well, first we're gonna come up to here and make a rectangle. And once I draw this out, I like to make sure that there's enough room for the actual words to go in here, right? So I like extra padding or extra space around there so it can really breathe. In terms of the height, it should always be kind of proportionate. You don't want a really long, skinny button. That kind of looks weird. And you don't want a really short, tall button, because then that doesn't really look like a real button. So a button should be, let's just say we're going to make this right around here, right around half or a little bit less. And then for the height, let's bring it up a little bit, so around 56. So for this color right here, that's obviously, that doesn't really work with our color scheme, and it gets lost, so that won't stand out. So we have to make sure our button definitely stands out as the main, call to action, and that's what we want everybody to do. We want them to click this. So we gotta make sure we pick a good color for this. So right now this is just like a practice website. So I'm just gonna pick a color from here that I think will look good. So I'll take my color picker and I think that could work. So all right, so let's pick this one right here. So it's a nice like hot pinkish red. And okay, so now we have the color that we're gonna work with. Next we're gonna do is put the copy in our button, what our button should say. So in terms of the copy and the text and the font, you kind of want to pick something that we're using already in the design. So this one's using Roboto Flex and Roboto Condensed. So if I just do a Option and drag, let's just start with this. And then we're gonna move it to the top of our layers so we could overlay this. And obviously this color, that gets lost, so that's bad. So we want to make this white. And we'll just say bye now. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'm going to drag this out. Oops. So I want the width to be the same as the button, and then I'll go over here and center it, right? And obviously the letters are a little bit too small, so we could bump that up a few. And then for buttons, I like to do 100% here on the line height. And then what we're going to do is kind of move that so it's in the middle here. So now everything's in the middle. Another trick we could use is we could also drag the button up here, and then we could drag the button box. So now it's the same size as the button. And then if you go over here to the text, you can align to the middle, and that's technically, the middle of the box. Okay, so now we have our button. It's square, it stands out. We'll give it a little bit more spacing here so it could breathe. Next thing I'm going to do is these everything here is like rounded corners, right? The phone is a rounded corner. All these, these cards and these app icons, these are all rounded corners. So for the consistency and for the look of our site and our buttons, we're going to go to our rectangle here, and we're going to give it rounded corners. We want the rounded corners to just look like, they go with the rest of the design. So it might be a little too much. Maybe right around there is fine. Just a little bit rounded. Okay. In terms of the text, I think I might want to bump that up to bold. Just give it a little bit more distinction. So now that's a pretty good button right there. It's flat, which is trendy. It's easily recognizable. It's bright. It's vibrant. So it definitely stands out. But some tricks that we could use rather than just make bold white text on a cool background color, we could start adding shadows and like gradients to it. So for the shadow, a cool thing you could do is go down to the effects, and it'll give you a drop shadow. It's not the best. It definitely works. It's okay. But if you go in here, what I like to do is I'll take a color, and keep in mind I'm on 8HSL. There's hex, RGB. Those are like the two most known ones. I like to do HSL just because the way that this is set up, it's white up here, black down here, but in the middle is like the most vibrant. For me, I just like to work that way. So what I'll do is I'll come in here, I'll pick the color, and obviously that doesn't look good. But now as we start moving this up, it's a little bit more subtle, but it's got kind of a glow to it, which is cool. So I'll usually do this. So now you can see it's 100%. It's got its own hex color down here, so it's actually a light pink. And then I'll bump that blur up. So now it's super subtle. It's got a nice glow to it. Just makes it a little bit more vibrant. And then, like I said before, we could put a little gradient on here on this fill. So basically how I do that is I'll make an extra fill here. I'll add one, and then I'll copy and paste it, basically so it's the same, and make this 100%. So now that's the same. I'll come in here, and we'll go from solid to linear. Now this is what we want. We want our regular color up here, and then as we go down to our second color for the gradient, first thing we'll do is we'll bump this up to 100. Now we can start playing with this, and you'll see it starts to get a little bit more vibrant. It's got a little bit more life to it. And what we can also do is move this. This is our hue. It's the same thing as if we go left and right. Right, so let me just, I think it was 352, right? Let's just say it was 353 or whatever. So what we could do is we could bump this down and get something slightly different, and it kind of makes it more vibrant because it's slightly different hue, but so there's a little bit of a transition. So that's a trick that you could use to make your buttons even more vibrant. Like I said, with the drop shadow, you get a little bit more of a glow. So now you can already see like this button is way more interesting than what we started with. So I think that looks pretty cool. Another trick we could do is I'll just copy this over just so we could see the difference. Is we could use icons. So what I'll do there is now I'll just take the rectangle and extend it. I'll go to this button up here, resources, and you could do plugins, and you could just search for icons or icon and or anything like that. And this one is just one I found, feather icon, so I'll run that. And we'll put in, let's use, I don't know, something like this maybe. Just click it. There it is. Oops. So now what we could do is drag this. We could drag this onto our button. Selection color will make white, which is FFF. And now we'll come in and this is a little bit different because we don't want it to be totally centered. But we'll make this, we'll drop that down a little bit. We'll come in here. So we want the spacing, we don't want the spacing to be too far off. But we could do something like this, right? So now we have a little bit more we have a little bit more going on here. We have an icon we could use. That kind of looks pretty proportionate. So now there's another, way we could make the buttons a little bit more interesting. And you could even extend this out a little bit more. Move the icon over here. And what you could do is copy and paste this rectangle on top, drag it over here, kind of center it around the icon, and then instead of having it be the same exact color, we can make it darker. So we'll go ahead and just drag these down a little bit. Drag this down a little bit. And let me get rid of the drop shadow. Come to the corners. You want to make sure that these corners are in line with this top edge. So your first one is the left, so that's going to be 0. Right, bottom left. We also want that to be 0. You can kind of do something like this. I'd probably just, in this case, I'd probably hide that and just, I mean, this is a little bit different, but maybe you can do, black and just kind of go down with the opacity, just so it's a little bit different. And do something like that. That's another, way that you can make the buttons interesting. But anyway, those are just a couple ways you can make buttons a little bit more interesting, a little bit more vibrant, stand out a little bit more. If you like this video, you want to see more, please leave a comment, subscribe, like it. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'll see you in the next one.